Chairman, I will. There you go. You're live, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Well, thank you. We appreciate your efforts this week. Okay, good morning. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Take a roll call, please, Carol.
Representative Bear,
Representative Bear is excused.
Representative Burkhart,
Here.
Vice Chair Duncan, Representative Ayer,
Here.
Representative Gray,
Here.
Representative Heiner, Representative Sherwood,
Here.
Representative Western,
Here.
Chairman Greer.
Here.
8 present, 1 excused.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and Representative Bear is presenting a bill in another committee. I think he's first up and will join us when he can. So committee and members of the public, we've been wrestling around these reliability electrical generation bills. We took quite a bit of testimony. It was last week, seems like forever ago because of the delay. They were noticed today for a discussion for our committee. I've been asked by several people about a substitute bill. Some of us been working on trying to get something. We really couldn't get anything squeezed together, but we've got a couple of discussions with Representative Gray regarding 155. And I think just take a couple moments while we have the time here and get some comments in our thoughts. And this is kind of a new subject area for the Minerals Committee. And this is rested in between what corporations looks at and what the Minerals Committee does. And because of our push for carbon capture and some of the other development, it makes sense that it's a better fit for us, but it's going to require some work during the interim. And I think we just got to make sure we understand and we've got ourselves a little bit up to speed on the topics. And these bills were a good look at that in my estimation. So I'll keep talking just a little bit. And I know Representative Ayer's got some comments and we'll take some from the other committee members. One of the things we were looking at is trying to get something done. And between 155 with the reliability component of that bill was good. The liability component was scary. I think for most people, it was a testimony we heard. With respect to 258, I think we had just way too many terms that were unknown and need to be fleshed out, and worked a lot harder than we could in simply, the time that we have while we're in session, meaning an interim study and interim work for that. One of the components of that, which also ties in with a lot of the discussion, was sort of this transparency. What are the real costs of the actions that are going on? What is all of that being factored in? And where, how does Wyoming stand up for itself? How does Wyoming make sure that it is positioned and poised to make sure that we continue to have investment in our state and that we continue to try to grow our state with the vision, and we just don't slowly shrink up and become a Buffalo Commons for people to visit once a year. These are really important issues and ones that I think we all as Wyomingites live with and are always nervous about. So with those comments, I think what I'll do, I know Representative Ayer had something that he wanted to say, and I will yield the floor to him.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't know if any of this will make sense, but I've had some thoughts on these bills that we're trying to merge into one or come with a substitute bill or somehow make them all work. I think we've had a flurry of this type of activity and a somewhat knee-jerk reaction to what happened in Texas and in California earlier in the summer regarding reliability. And I really like the intent of these bills. And there are some really good ideas, but I think we need further work. We've already given our our regulators some really good tools to protect our coal fleet. We'd sent a file, was it 59 or 159 that required the offer to purchase before they closed the plant. We've had HB 200 last year that established carbon capture portfolio standard. We've had allocated a lot of money to carbon capture technology and the coal litigation fund. So we've done a lot of things to protect our coal plant. And then we passed 166, which is another kind of reliability statute. So I think we've done a lot of good things. And I really like the intent, but I think some of the unintended consequences are going to be problematic. And we had testimony to that effect. You know, utilities and large industrial customers have a great interest in reliability. And all utilities, of course, and customers have a need for reliability. But there, at some point, that next increment of reliability, if you go from 99.5 to 99.7, the cost just becomes too great to warrant that extra level of reliability. Utilities invest a lot of money. If possible, they have redundant backup systems. They have reclosers. Invest a lot of money in those. Representative Heiner, I'm sure, is familiar with recloser operations. When a fault on a line occurs, it opens the line, tries to clear the fault, and then kicks back in so that the line doesn't go down. You can operate them up to 2 or 3 times. And if a fault clears, then the line stays energized. If the fault doesn't clear, then it drops out and you have to go find out what the problem is. We had testimony from our regulators from the largest power electric utility in our state and from the organization that represents all of our large power users, the Wyoming Industrial Energy Consumers Group. And it's not often that they agree, but I think they all agreed in this case that the cost of increasing our reliability beyond what it has been is too great. And I want to make sure the committee understands that any reliability issues we've had in Wyoming have not been generation related. It's due to the delivery system, transmission or distribution. We've never had a generation outage that has affected customers in Wyoming. So while I appreciate the intention of the intentions of these bills and what's intended here, they have all good intentions. I think the unintended consequences are going to result in higher cost to consumers. And the fact is, you can say the cost is shifted to the stockholders, but it always ends up in affecting ratepayers, because if you affect stockholders, the price of capital goes up, and that gets sometime point down the line rolled into rates. So you can never shield the ratepayers from those rate impacts. I guess all that background information, I think we need to study this more carefully and take some time, maybe during the interim, to see if there's more things we can do to protect our reliability and protect our coal fleet further. So.
Representative Ayer, just what should we focus on? What should we be preparing ourselves for, in your opinion?
You know, I don't know. I think we can take some more time with these bills, and like I say, I appreciate the intent of them. I think the findings in which one was it? 258 is good. I don't know how to roll that into a bill, and maybe there are some things with reliability we can do, but I think we've come to a pretty good place already. We've done a lot of things already, and I don't know if we need to do more.
Yep. Representative Duncan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Ayer, where do we go with the transmission piece? Because that's where it seems like when we were in corporations, and and then now here, where do we go on the transmission piece?
I don't know as we need to go anywhere. I think we've got adequate transmission capacity. I mean, you can't build a completely redundant transmission system because it's just too costly. So I think our transmission system is reliable and is working good now.
Representative Western?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Ayer, I guess maybe this is just a question at large. You know, it sounds like what we're doing, or you're heading in an environment where our electrical generation, electric utility usage, et cetera, is being dictated by bigger customers, bigger consumers around us, whether it's through the multi-state protocol or what be it. The state of Wyoming is pushing back through pieces of legislation like this and ones that we've already passed. It's kind of an inherently defensive measure, which can be effective in achieving objectives. I guess my question is, how long do you think this lasts before there's a potential paradigm shift? Because we've been on this shift for a while now. Do you see us shifting back in the direction it came from or changing into another direction?
I'm not sure I know the answer to that. I do think that the things we've done already have already made a difference in the anticipated retirement dates of some of the Rocky Mountain Power's plants. They've already shifted that retirement date back a couple of years. They say it was because of the shifts in their model. I think it was because of some of the legislation that we've already passed. My hope is that by delaying the retirement of those plants, we're going to get far enough down the road that people are going to wake up to the fact that these things that are happening in Texas and California will help people to finally realize, you know, that they keep talking about battery technology being the answer to carry us through when the sun's not shining and the wind's not blowing. The fact is that battery technology is never going to be feasible, I believe. I think Representative Burkhardt has talked about the rare earth minerals that are required to do that, and some of the inherent problems just in the physics of battery backup that's never going to be feasible. And so as we go down this road a little further, if we can keep our coal fleet operating, people are going to wake up to the fact that they're needed. We can't do without them. I hope that happens in a while. So if we can just keep them operating for long enough to get to that point, I think that hopefully that paradigm shift will occur.
So one thing, committee is, carbon capture is obviously, it's not the silver bullet or the magic bullet, but it's sure a goal we want to push towards. It has a lot of benefits in Wyoming. And the other thing too, we've got to talk about our offsets. And, when you start talking about offsets, you're talking about carbon credits and those are issues to get us to transition to a point in time that Representative Ayer is there. And I would ask before we get into our interim, our committee look at those issues and think about them. Wyoming was one of the first states to get out and regulate pore space and understand some of those issues that were associated with sequestration. To be the first, such as we were, maybe blockchain, although I don't know if all of us can define what blockchain is, but I do know some of its uses. But to define a commodity and to regulate a commodity and to be a leader and a first into that space creates zones of innovation or the desire for innovation. So just things for us to be thinking about. Okay, so committee, what I understand from our discussions and actually quite a bit of work is there's no big desire to cram these bills together and roll something out. Is that a fair statement?
Mr. Chair.
Yep, Representative Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to move forward with 155 and just take out the liability and just have a simple statement, very clear that reliability shall be considered because the PSC, I've seen numerous statements on this. And I just think we delete most of the bill, just make that simple 5-line statement that is, to the top of page 3, line 2. And I mean, that I think is delete the rest of the bill.
Yep.
And that's what I'd like to do.
Yeah, Representative Gray and I, as far as the chairman's concerned, that's fine. And I've kind of worked up the amendments that would be associated with that. So why don't we look at that with respect to 155 is what's the committee's pleasure? Moved by Duncan, seconded by Air. Okay. Sorry, Representative Gray, but I'm going to kind of talk. What I've done is I've lined through to where the title would be electrical generation reliability. Starting on page 1, I've lined through all the stuff regarding the liability. And Carol, I will share this with you. Okay. I've come down and section 1 would be just section 37 to 134 is created. On page 2, we left the definitions in there, and just dispatchability is as defined in 3718-101A2. Electrical generation facility, I left alone. Romanet 3 reliability is just means as defined in Wyoming statute 3718-101A Romanet 4. And then I think Representative Gray, this is the statement, and maybe we talk about this as if this is the statement you want for sure. Before authorizing or approving the closure of an electrical generation facilities proposed in a rate case, integrated resource plan or other submission to the commission shall consider the effect on available, reliable, dispatchable electricity to Wyoming customers on a nationwide basis. And then basically the rest of the bill is deleted except for section 3 and 4 modified to conform. Is that, Representative Gray, what you were thinking? Okay, so then I think committee, we can move that amendment, but first of all, this makes sure, Representative Gray, that, and I'm looking at page 3 in lines 1 and 2. Is this saying what you want to say? Is this the message?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes. Yep.
Well, that was simple then.
Could I suggest maybe one that I think would be a friendly deletion?
Good, Representative.
On line 2 of page 3, we should strike "and on a national basis." The PSC has no authority on a nationwide basis.
Okay, Representative Gray, you want to respond to that?
I think the bill does still do something without the language, but I'm not super thrilled about it. What does the chairman think? I mean, I think that is
That was
part
one
of,
of the, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, that was one of the suggestions from the PSC.
Oh, all right, I'll weigh in here. And this was language I wanted to maybe look at is the PSC is charged with looking at the effect on our consumers. What we're trying to do is what is the effect of what other people are doing that are having that impact upon consumers. And that's that shift. And I'm not articulating this very well, but that shift from, just knowing you can plug something in the wall, it's going to work, to the shift of, I got to plug into the wall, but I got to feel good about the electricity, where it comes from. And so that's what I think Representative Gray's getting to, is on a nationwide basis, but I don't know how to articulate that very well. And so that was why I was kind of asking the question before, is what do we do with that? Yeah, Representative Sherwood.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not sure that this fits, but in research, I saw that North Dakota has a bill that they invest in helping existing businesses manage these social components, environmental, social, criteria. And so it's a little bit more of a proactive look at how can we assist businesses in what you just brought up, is that social conscious impact to the industry. You just food for thought.
Yeah, so Representative Gray, was your language, what were your thoughts on having on a nationwide basis in there? What were you trying to get to?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I mean, I think we've heard testimony. Well, actually, it was more in the development of, what was that, 248, that, I mean, if it's reliability just in Wyoming, I mean, we got a lot of capacity. And the point is that we're providing electricity to the whole country, or a huge part of it. So I understand what the PSC's point is, but I think they have the jurisdiction to do this because it's all connected. And they're part of that Western interconnection. I think they have the authority to do this. I'm not sure they like it, but I do think they have the authority to do that. And so I think it's an important part of the bill. I don't think it's totally gutted without it. But, and just a little more background on this, I did want to clarify one thing. I mean, you can see the LSO tag 344. I started drafting this before the Texas thing. The liability provisions was a Senator Boner idea. He decided to not bring that bill. So I amended it into this one, thinking it was pretty much the same thing. And that was before the Texas thing too. But, I've had this concern for a while. And so I think it's a good, those 4 words are important. So I push back a little bit on removing them. Thank you.
So I've got a thought, because I agree that this is important. And I'll just tell you, this happened on a personal level to me when we had the crisis in Texas. The natural gas that I was buying for a little over $2 jumped to 25, and I was only able to reserve some at $25 for a 4-day period, enough for minimum operations. And it was actually all the way up to $360, meaning that the lack of reliable energy in another part of the state had a dramatic impact on the operations in Warnock. And I know some of our ratepayers with natural gas are going to feel that too. And so with that thought in mind, and this may be really awkward, but I'll throw this out while we're discussing it. And so the commission shall consider the effect on available, reliable, dispatchable electricity to Wyoming customers, and the effect that the lack, or it could say, or possible, I don't know, but let me just say, or lack of available, reliable, dispatchable electricity on a nationwide basis has on Wyoming customers. Because isn't that what we're saying, is that if you're 2 states away and you don't have this in place, that can trickle back and have an impact on Wyoming customers? Is that what we're trying to say?
Yeah, I agree. I think that's good.
Okay. All right. So much for parliamentary procedure. I've got this all boogered up. Okay, let's go down this path then. The bill's been moved and seconded. I think we've had a good discussion regarding it. Does everyone understand the amendment concerning pulling out the liability component and getting the bill conformed to it? Okay. From the chair, I'll move that amendment, I guess. Second by Duncan. Okay, question being called. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, now with respect to page 3, and then on line 2. So Representative Gray, Representative Duncan, or not Duncan, Air. But do you want me to restate my language, or do you guys want to take a crack at it? Or okay. Let me try this again. So what we would say, dispatchable electricity to Wyoming customers, and the effect that the lack of available, reliable, dispatchable electricity on a nationwide basis would have on Wyoming customers. And maybe that wood should be may have on Wyoming customers. Okay. Okay. All right, it's been moved, seconded. Duncan, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Any further discussion on the bill, committee? Okay. Did Representative Bear, okay, so I'm not really particularly inclined to do this very often, but he is testifying in another committee. I want to, as long as we're still open in committee, I want to give him the opportunity to be able to vote. So I'll keep that his vote open then, at least to the end of the committee meeting. Okay, roll call vote, Carol.
Representative Bear, I'll just use excused right now. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Representative Burkhardt,
Aye.
Vice Chair Duncan.
Aye.
Representative Air.
Aye.
Representative Gray,
Aye.
Representative Heiner.
Aye.
Representative Sherwood,
No.
Representative Western. Chairman Greer.
Aye.
Okay, that would be 7 ayes, 1 no, and 1 excuse.
Okay, and
Right
again,
now.
I'll leave the vote open for Representative Bear. So we'll have Representative Sherwood carry this? I know you would. All right. All right. Carol, I'll show you what I have. We'll double check. And then it is Representative Gray's personal bill. So just we'll make sure he gets just make sure and double check the amendment, Representative. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, very good. I guess then the chair would entertain a motion to go ahead and table 258 and 248.
I'll move.
Okay, been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. The next item for consideration is, was going to hear from Representative Fortner on House Bill 257. And I don't see him.
Do you want me to text him?
Yeah, would you text him and then maybe we'll jump on and then knock out the cease and transfer bill. I see Luke Esch is on the line. So Carla, could you bring Luke in or Mr. Esch in, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, here he comes.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Esch.
Chairman, members of the committee, good morning. My name is Luke Esch. I am the Deputy Director of the Department of Environmental Quality, as well as the Administrator of the Solid and Hazardous Waste Division. Director Parfit sends his regrets for being unable to be here this morning, but I'm happy to answer all your questions regarding Senate File 44.
Mr. Esch, would you maybe we've got a few new members of the committee. This is a familiar almost administrative duty for the legislature, but maybe just a little bit of a background and how this prioritization is set. And then it's always good to get an update on where we are on expenditures and available funds.
Absolutely, Mr. Chairman. So the cease and transfer program dates back to 2013 when the legislature, in recognition of the rising costs of operating small unlined landfills around the state, developed a program to provide cost assistance to local governments and operators to cease receipt of waste at these small unlined landfills and transfer it to more lined regional landfills as well. There was also issues, and still is, issues of groundwater contamination, which increases the cost of operating as well as closing these landfills. So yes, it goes back to 2013. Since 2013, we've been bringing an update to the legislature each year, which basically re-ranks some of the facilities. They were started with 52 facilities being on the list. The latest list has 19 facilities, so we've made great progress. But with regard to your question on prioritization, so the department conducts extensive outreach to the operators in the state, and we solicit information on whether they're interested in applying for funding under the program. We evaluate how much time life they have left in their existing cells, some of those factors to determine where they fall on the priority. So we put together a list of 15 projects back in 2013 with a total estimated cost of $96.2 million. We've been working through that list and based on funding that has been provided by the legislature. And as I mentioned, in October of 2020, we provided an updated priority list to the Joint Minerals and Appropriations Committee. That list had 19 facilities on it with a total estimated project cost of $27.8 million. Now, of that $27.8 million, 7 projects are for transfer stations to help communities ship their waste to regional landfills. And 12 of those facilities are for closures, which is for $19.7 million. Now, obviously the $27.8 million, that's the total cost. The program is designed to only provide up to 20 or 75% of the cost to local operators, meaning that in the form of grants and loans, meaning that the local operators have to provide that other 25%, which provides their skin in the game for the operational costs. To date, we have $17.8 million remaining in the program account, with $11.2 million in grants and $6.6 in loans. We're working with operators. There was one project that was funded in 2020, so that project is proposed to be eliminated. We had one project or one facility actually request to be added to the list. This is Lingle. I believe they were placed at number 11 on the list, and that's for a closure. They have a small landfill that they're seeking cost assistance for closure. And that is kind of a general overview of the program, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, committee, any questions for Mr. Ash? Representative Burkhart.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Esch, the carcass management project, just quickly, if you would, how's that going? Is it worthwhile? Do we need to continue funding it?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Burkhart, we've had interest expressed in applying for the Carcass Management Fund, but we have not had any applications as of yet. We are having some conversations with some individuals around the state to see how they can apply for that funding to address largely the carcass management option came about after our conversations with local operators, as well as the department was a part of the Chronic Wasting Disease Task Force. And there was acknowledgement during that process that as we're closing these smaller unlined landfills, the opportunities and venues for disposal of dead animals was shrinking. So in order to provide an option for folks to either compost the dead animals down so they could throw the remains into an unlined C&D landfill, or basically provide infrastructure to ship the dead animals to a facility, a receiving facility that would accept them, we proposed the $100,000 for carcass management. As I indicated, we have not had any applications submitted to that yet, but we are in conversation with some few folks who are working with their local operators, as well as the Game and Fish Department is interested in trying to find more opportunities to have these around the state as well.
Okay, Mr. Esch, could you help me? I wasn't able to find it. There wasn't, this is an engrossed copy from the Senate. What was the change from what we did this interim?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. On page 4 of the engrossed copy, line 14, the sentence it starts at line 10. but any municipal solid waste facility operator may apply for funds associated with the carcass management project listed as priority 1 in subsection B of this section. Funds for the carcass management project shall be expended only for the infrastructure necessary to haul, bury, or compost dead animals. Senator Hicks added that word bury after haul on line 14.
Okay, thank you. I just couldn't find it, so. So, Mr. Esch, since it's Friday, I mean, with the roadkill bill makes it the law, can we cut down that appropriation?
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, I didn't quite catch that question.
I said if the roadkill bill makes it signed into law, will we be able to cut that appropriation down for the carcass management?
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, I have not been following the roadkill bill, so I can't provide much comment on that.
Representative Burkhardt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You asked the question I was thinking of, but I really didn't want to go there. So, Mr. Esch, page 4, line 7, priority 19, Park County landfills, TS rolling stock. Could you just tell me what that is? The TS rolling.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Burkhardt, yes, that's the transfer station rolling stock. Park County has requested that they remain on the list, the priority list, kind of as a placeholder in case they do come and request additional rolling stock that would allow them to transfer waste from that facility.
Okay, follow up.
And in terms of rolling stock, that would be the containers that they can load up on the back of trucks to haul that waste to a different facility.
Okay, thank you. That was going to be my next question. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Esch.
And I assume that's the ongoing Cody Powell discussions, we'll call it.
Mr. Chairman, that does factor into the Park County waste discussions.
Okay. All right, committee, any other questions for Mr. Esch?
I have one, Mr.
Oh, Representative Bear.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Esch, I should kind of know this already, and I think I do, but could you just kind of speak to how soon, at our current pace, how soon we might get through all 19 of these projects? Or
Mr. Chairman?
in a time, just a rough time frame?
You go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Ayer. Well, the projects that basically whenever they come into the program depends on when the local operators apply for funding under the program. Now, our conversations with these local operators, I think COVID certainly threw everybody for a little loop, which is no surprise why we only funded one project in 2020. But our preliminary estimates indicate that we should, it'll be probably through 2024 before we get through all the facilities on the list. That said, as Lingle did this time, if an operator changes its mind on whether they want to continue operating or if they want to close, they can request to be added to the priority list. And we would take that into consideration and present that to this committee in October of each year for their consideration, for your consideration.
All right. Yep, Representative Heiner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Esch, for being here for your testimony. Of the original appropriation made back in 2013, could you tell us how much it remains in that account? And do you anticipate needing more appropriation in the future for this program?
Go ahead, Mr. Esch.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Heiner. At this time, we do not anticipate needing additional funding for the program. That said, as we get additional information from these facilities, for instance, this past year as well, we got some updated engineering estimates from some of from the facilities on the list, and we've adjusted those figures in the report as applicable. So that the final amount can go up and down a little bit. But as I indicated with Park County, some of these facilities may not be requesting funding under the program. So of the remaining, we have $17.8 million remaining in the program account. 11.2 of that is in grants. 6.6 is in loans. So if you take the 27 million, the 27.8 million dollars, that's the total price tag. The program only funds up to 75% unless it's in the most extreme circumstances. So you take 75% of that and you're looking at about 20.9 million. So the 17.8 and the 20.9 million, there's really not that much difference between the two. So we hope to basically through the use of taking a close look at projects to make sure that they're tailored towards the community's needs, as well as trying to get some good estimates and good bids in from local contractors, that we can bridge that gap and not be requesting any additional funds.
Okay, any further questions? All right, thank you, Mr. Ash. Good explanation. Any members of the public want to testify on this? And I see Shannon Anderson has her hand up. So Carla, you'll bring your hand. Come forward, sir. We'll kind of switch back and forth.
Here she comes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I'm Bob McLaurin with WHAM. Just wanted to come and support the bill. We appreciate the help the state's providing with these landfills. Be happy to answer any questions, but thank you for your support.
Committee, any questions? So I'll just ask the one, and it's so 11 years of dealing with this issue, and it was about 3 years leading up to it. And I think one of the issues that was the hardest for people in Wyoming to get their mind around was that it costs money to dispose of waste. And, we look at the real cost of dealing with municipal solid waste. It has been a struggle for every community. How have those discussions been going in your organization?
I think we're very supportive of it, and I think we've come a long way in dealing with this issue, and wouldn't have been there without the state. We couldn't have gotten there without the help of the state.
So I guess one of the things, are you seeing where tipping fees and rates are starting to reflect the true cost of dealing with municipal solid waste?
I can speak to my home county, and definitely it's starting to cover the cost. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Committee, any questions? Okay. All right.
Thank
Well,
you.
thank you. You bet. All right. Ms. Anderson?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Shannon Anderson on behalf of the Powder River Basin Resource Council. We just wanted to provide our annual comments to the committee in support of this program. We greatly appreciate the work of the DEQ and your ongoing commitment and funding to address groundwater contamination from landfills and to provide communities an opportunity to plan for sustainable, cost-effective waste management. So thank you again for your tireless commitment to this issue, and we appreciate your work. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Anderson? All right. Thank you. Appreciate your comments. Okay. Anyone else wishes to testify? Okay. I'll close public testimony. What's the committee's pleasure? Moved by Duncan, seconded by Burkhart. Any just further discussion, committee? Okay, Carol, we'll take the vote, please.
Chairman.
Oh, never mind. Representative Burkhart has a comment.
Do you have an amendment?
I do.
There was an amendment you asked me to attach to all of.
Okay. It's a technical amendment to, in committee members, it's on page 2, line 21, where it reads, and D, comma, 2019 session laws. And what they want is to insert as amended by the 2019 session laws. So that's it was amended in 2019. Representative Burkhart, you want to make the amendment?
Mr. Chairman, I would move amendment. Page 2, line 21, after and D, comma, insert as amended by 2019 Wyoming Session Laws, Chapter 80, Section 323.
Chapter 80, Section what?
323.
Okay. Is there a second? Okay, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. We are now voting on the bill as amended. Go ahead, Carl. Roll call vote.
Representative Bear,
Excused.
Representative Burkhart,
Aye.
Vice Chair Duncan.
Aye.
Representative Air.
Aye.
Representative Gray.
Aye.
Representative Heiner.
Aye.
Representative Sherwood,
Aye.
Representative Western.
Aye.
Chairman Greer.
Aye.
8 ayes, 1 excused.
Okay, volunteers to carry this, floor manage it is a committee bill. Representative Finer, okay. Why don't we stand at ease for a few minutes? Just go ahead and just stand at ease for about 10 minutes and take a break, get some coffee and see where we're at.
I think so. I gotta move.
Oh. I'll wait for it. Okay, this should be fine. Yeah, I think it's. Yes.
Carol? Carol, I'm hearing a lot of voices. I think there's a mic that's not muted.
Okay, I'll check. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Majority Floor Leader, can I have my committee member, please? No, no worries. We're kind of casual Friday today, so. All right, so Carla's got us back on, we're ready to go. Let's go ahead and reconvene. And Representative Fortner, I missed a bill yesterday with our system isn't quite, the notices on our desk like we get to do, so you're fine. So,
I seen that when I went upstairs, Chairman.
yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay, well, what we have here is House Bill 257. We've been kind of talking along these lines, but I did want to give you an opportunity to present your view and have your say on this and present your bills. So floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks again for waiting on me, folks. I'm usually here plenty early when I know that I have a meeting of any sort. That's the way I was raised. I want to apologize for not being here on time. I have a interest in wind generation. I got some wind patents that I have up and running. I've done my prototypes and I'm very familiar with that field along with being a retired coal miner. But anyhow, this bill deals with the act relating to public utilities and act a moratorium on retirement of coal-fired electric generation facilities, amending limitations, retiring facilities, repealing the applicability provisions, and providing for an effective date. The reason this bill means so much to me is I don't believe we need to be picking winners and losers in the new technologies that's coming along. Wind is coming along. Solar is real advanced. We're seeing that right now in the net metering. But I don't believe there's anything out there right now that can take the place of coal, natural gas, and oil, those fossil fuels that we have aboard and have nurtured and made work for us for over 100 years, 150 years. I don't see jumping out of one into the other. I think reason I'm for this bill is there's a huge workforce involved with the fossil fuel industry, and the wind energy and some of the green stuff. There's quite a bit of people moving into that, being that the fossil fuels, especially the coal market's seen a decline. So I guess where I want to stress on everybody. And I'm not probably telling nobody anything new. I coal mined for 20 years. I've seen exactly what it takes to get a ton of coal out of the ground, and the way they become efficient at doing that is by volume. The more you can get out of the ground, the cheaper the product is. We can't guard against what people's been taught for the last 50 years that coal's bad for you. We're just now seeing that. I think, but we got to embrace the electricity that we have here, the ability of having it through the worst storms and the longevity of having it into the future. And I would even suggest that, and I know the state's don't want to do that, but I would suggest the state of Wyoming maybe take one of these power plants if it comes available, just to provide our power in the state of Wyoming. I think that would be one of the smartest things we could do. I believe the battery technology is right around the corner. My boy and I, we've been working on a battery. We've been working on a patent on a battery. But they're huge batteries. They're containment type batteries that comes in shipping crates. That's the type of batteries that we're looking at for our patent. And there's still a lot of trial and error that goes on at that stage as well. I just want to stress that we do everything that we can, just like we have been, to make sure coal, oil, and gas get the fair shake on the decline of fossil fuels. I do not want to see us end up cold. One, I know I won't, because I've already prepared for that. But there's a lot of people in the cities that can't prepare for that. They need to have the ability for us as legislators in the state of Wyoming to guard against hardships from downturns in the green energy. I think that's the biggest reason I'm here today. With that, I'll take some questions.
Okay. Representative Portner, could you go, just walk us through the bill, just take us page by page to it, because there are some date changes and the reason why those changes are in there. I think I understand them, but.
I just believe that being from a coal mine family, me and my brothers and
No, Representative, no, we understand your position. Could you just walk us through the bill? I mean, we
oh
got
yeah,
a
I can do that.
moratorium.
Sure,
And
sure.
we're moving some dates from
Yeah.
some previous legislation.
Well, it's okay. You want me to start at the beginning then and head on all the way down through it then?
Yeah, I just think maybe, yeah, just hit it.
Okay, just walk. through-
Just go with 10,000 foot.
All right.
You go all
I'll
the way
start
up to
at
12
7.
if you
I'll start
want.
at 7. work my way
10,000
down.
foot overview.
Okay, all right. Be it enacted by the legislature of the state of Wyoming, by section 1, Wyoming statute 37-7-117A, by creating a new paragraph and by amending the renumbering, as amended by Wyoming Citizens Laws, chapters 41, section 1. Is that what you want me to do?
No, let me just, I just want to, I'll help you.
Do you want me to sort of give you 3 bullet points? Is that sort of what you're looking for?
Yeah. So, yeah, so Representative Fortner, please refer to me as the chairman when we're in here. We'll keep this, but I'll.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah. So, okay. So Representative Fortner, on page 2, right? So you got a prohibition on closing coal-fired plants.
Yeah.
July 1, 2021 through June 30, 2035, right?
Okay, you want me to start off on, Mr. Chairman, you want me to start off on number 9?
Sure. Yeah. Representative Fortner, I'll just ask you the 2 questions. I just
Okay.
want to make sure we tie together. as well.
Yeah, I'm sort of like a duck out of water with these committees yet. I've not been into a lot of them, just 1 or 2, so.
We'll help you swim. Don't
There
worry
you
about it. Okay. So then we move in and so then when you look at the paragraph Romanet 2 lines 13 through 17, right? You've inserted on or after July 1, 2035. Okay, and that's, I think it was from the prior legislation, President Dockstetter brought. Is that correct?
You're talking about the no electric public utility shall seek? Is that where we're at?
Yeah, regarding Representative Fortner, any electric.
Oh, any
Public-
electric utility seeking to retire coal fired plant? Is that where you?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Any electric public utility seeking to retire coal-fired electric generation facility on or after July 1, 2035 shall first make good faith effort, sell facility for continued use of coal-fired electric generation facility. And that's, the good faith effort to me would be if they cannot find somebody to take the plant. Well, let's just back up. The only way I think that you could find a good faith effort is if you have a coal-fired mouth-fed plant, like we got at Basin Electric up home there and some of the other places they have around. I think that's the only way you're going to get a good faith effort, because people is going to have the mining facility along with the plant to make it work. To float the coal down the railroad to a plant with no facility, mouth fed, I don't think that this is even going to apply to that.
I guess Representative Fortner, what I was looking at, and I couldn't remember the Senate file, but Senate file 159 was this language regarding this good faith effort. And so this is adding this new section 37.3.117A, which is a notwithstanding. And I was just making sure that we were tying in and not running into inconsistent legislation, but we can look at that.
You want to go on the back to page 3, start at 1 there then?
No, just hold on. We'll just take some questions. We'll be good. Representative Sherwood?
Mr. Chairman, I think, and I could have mistyped this, but I think it was from Senate File 21 from March of 2020 that this was addressed.
Yeah, you could go ahead, say it into the microphone. Nobody could hear.
I apologize. Mr. Chairman, when I was reading through this last night, it's my understanding that this amends Senate File 21 from March of 2020.
Okay. All right. I didn't do my research like you did, so that's why I was asking the question.
Mr. Chairman,
Representative
if I might, Representative Sherwood is correct. But I'm going to have a number of questions because I'm not real sure exactly what this does, looking at Senate File 21 and looking at 37-3-117 compare it together. But go ahead. I just.
Okay. Yeah, that's what it's. All right, committee, then I think we understand your position. We're looking at some of the technical aspects of that bill. So yeah, Representative Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this bill is based on an amendment that was brought earlier in the session. And so, a lot of things were said about that amendment. And one of them was, well, it's a bill. And that's what was said, the second version. So this is the bill. And I mean, that it doesn't make sense if you're not going to close a coal-fired facility, require somebody to first make a good faith effort to sell the facility. You could reword it. I agree to maybe they can look at selling the facility, but they can do that anyway. I mean, this is just saying that before closure, they have to look at selling the facility. So if you're going to do a moratorium on closing the facility, it doesn't make sense to, require them to look at selling the facility before closing it, because you're not closing it, right? So I mean, maybe you need to revise that statute a little more to say, but I think it's clear they can sell it still. I mean, so it doesn't prevent them from selling it, just prevents them from closing it. So that's why there's that amendment.
Okay, thanks, Representative Gray. Yeah, Representative Heiner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Fortner, in my district, there was one of the units that was recently converted from coal to natural gas and provided for some longevity for that coal plant as it converted. As I read this legislation, I'm not sure that would be allowed under this bill to be able to convert from coal to natural gas. Is that true or not true?
So Representative Fortner. So, yeah,
thank
I'm
you, Mr.
sorry.
Chairman.
I'm a more strict chairman than most.
Mr.
And
Chairman.
so you go Mr. Chairman and then
Yeah.
Representative Heiner, and then we'll
Got
do
it.
that way. It works well for us.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Representative Heiner, the way this bill is reading is I don't think it's cutting natural gas out at all. I don't think it's propping one up. I don't think we're picking winners and losers in the fossil fuel market. I think natural gas actually is probably going to be more sustainable after coal is gone than anything for a subsidized for the wind generation. That's how they do it in all states now is they do wind with backed up by natural gas. That's the methods they use. I don't believe this bill eliminates that I've seen.
Follow up. Okay. Committee, any further questions? Representative Burkhart.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative, I'm on page 3, line 13, the repealer. And I'm not exactly sure what that does. But the way I read the repealer, if you repeal section 2 of chapter 41 of the session laws, in effect, I read that to mean they cannot sell it. And if someone wants to purchase it, because they're retiring it, even if they say they're going to retire it after 2036, that you've repealed that section. And so now you can't purchase it because it says a person purchasing it, an otherwise retiring generation facility may sell the electricity generated to the electric public utility. So if a company has said, we're going to retire it in 2037, but we have a buyer now, I'm not sure the way this word allows that. I'm just curious. Could you explain that, please?
Go ahead, Representative Fortner.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Burkhart. The way I interpret this bill is if you wanted to sell a power plant today, you can. If you want, I think it gives you up to 2037, if I remember right. And I think the reason the 2037 date comes into place is that's when some of these coal-fired plants automatically expire. That's when their longevity was due.
Any follow-up or any further
Mr.
questions?
Chairman, I guess I'm just confused.
Okay.
That's all. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, go ahead, Representative.
this bill wasn't crafted to make communism in Wyoming to hold coal above anybody or keep it from doing what they need to do. Basically, all it says is if they go to retire is they got to have make a good faith effort. Now, what the good faith effort is, I guess that could be relate to what our body is here today, you know, the amendments or whatever you guys want to do. A good faith effort just leaves it pretty wide open to make that trying to make that sell. So I guess again, like I say, that should be probably addressed in this body somewhere along the line. If we want to put that in there, inject that information into what the good faith effort is. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Any further questions, committee? Okay. Oh, Representative Bear.
I'm gotta ask one. So as I understand this on line 9 of page 2, the bill states that no utility shall seek to retire a coal-fired plant beginning July 21 and ending June 2035. Do you know if there are plants that are going to reach their obsolescence? In other words, they're just beyond their useful life in that time frame?
Representative Fortner.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Air, I do not believe that this bill is crafted to prevent somebody from shutting down early because their useful life was over. This bill was crafted for the facilities that still got longevity, a lot of life left in them, to keep from shutting them down early, shy of their useful life. I think if there's anything that they got turbine problems or internal problems in their plant, and they could justify that, I believe they would be easy enough to go ahead and shut the facility down, convert it to natural gas or whatever that we decide we need to do.
Follow up, Representative Bear.
Yeah, just to, well, I don't know if I got a question, but it doesn't appear to me that that's what the bill says. It says you can't retire any plant. It doesn't say even if it's reached its obsolescence or its useful life.
Well, Mr. Chairman, Representative there, this bill is open for amendments. You know, if we need to make amendments, we can do that.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Any further questions for Representative Fortner? All right. Thank you. Sorry for the confusion on the notice. So it happened to me too. So I understand.
Yeah,
completely.
and like, you know, I'm not prepared for this, so I'm doing the best I can.
Okay,
You know?
sir. Yeah, so what we'll do is just have you sit back if you
Yes,
want.
thank you very much.
And so is there any member of the public that wishes to comment on this bill? Anybody wishes to testify? So, okay, so yeah, sir, come on forward and then go ahead and bring Ms. Anderson in, please.
Mr. Chairman, here she comes.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, no, go ahead, Rick, or Mr. Kaysen, you're.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Minerals Committee. My name is Rick Kaysen, and this morning I am speaking on behalf of Rocky Mountain Power. And before I provide comments on this particular bill, I'd like to thank Mr. Chairman and the entire committee for the earnest discussion on the 3 prior electric bills. Rocky Mountain Power is committed to continue to work with you during the interim as these discussions continue. And included in that those discussions is the implementation of House Bill 200 from last year, which the Public Service Commission has, they're still finalizing their rules on that to become the law. So there's kind of a migration from last year to this year, but again, we are committed to work with you. And that also includes working with the state of Wyoming on the objectives of CCS US. So again, you have our commitment on that. So
Can I have that written in blood, please?
not my blood, sir, but you
Okay.
mean the commitment to work with you? Absolutely. You know, we do not take it lightly. This is very important to the company. So to House Bill 257, have many concerns with this particular bill. As is proposed, and I'll try to be as precise as I can with my points. These include a 14-year moratorium. It seems rather punitive and excessive. And excuse me for a little bit of drama here, Mr. Chairman, but it seems like we're receiving a sentence without committing a violation. And so that is rather strict, rather a restriction that is hard to accept. It does not allow a utility to respond to market conditions during a 14-year period, keeping a coal-fired unit running. It also does not allow us to respond to any environmental existing or what future laws may come out with regards to environmental control, emissions, and things of that nature. For example, the federal government, of course, already has existing requirements, and specifically regional haze, which is causing the requirement of closure of some of the coal plants in the Rocky Mountain area. These requirements are already on the books, part of the Federal Clean Air Act, and they're already on the books prior to this current presidential administration. So it's something that utilities have been responding to over the last several years. I'm not sure if this bill potentially stymies or does not stymies what the state's all above energy policy, when it is really focusing on keeping the coal-fired units running. And so again, I think that somewhat relates to Representative Heiner's comment about the conversion of plants to natural gas. Looking at this bill, I think it does restrict that conversion as well, and interpretation, if I may. I think you've heard this little bit of information before, but the majority of coal-fired units in Wyoming provide power to neighboring state customers. If we were to say coal-fired units only, we would have 3 units out of 11 that would be able to provide enough energy, enough electricity to the customers in Wyoming. What's going to happen to those other 8 units? And we've heard this before as well, what are other states going to do? If they're going to say no to coal-fired units, which they already have, what does that mean to those units, and what does the economics mean as well? So again, I think that's part of this equation in the discussion. Trying to mandate these other states to accept coal is going to be a real challenge for us. And as we've heard before, those states' regulatory commissions are not going to be probably welcoming Wyoming's thoughts with open arms. What does this proposed bill say about Wyoming's position on and its belief and long-term practice over decades of the free enterprise system? It's really narrowing what that has the options to do is to respond to the free market system. A huge unknown in this is what's this going to cost? If this bill went through, if this moratorium went through, what is this going to cost for the Wyoming electric ratepayers, from the residential to the commercial to the industrial customers? That is a factor that is unknown, but again, it is a big concern that we have. If I may, Mr. Chairman, to Representative Ayers' inquiry about plant longevity, utilities look long-term. And we know that some of these coal-fired units have been beyond their anticipated expected life use. You have to take a look at the economics to keep those plants running. You have to keep the environmental requirements that are going there for emission control and things of that nature. So, Mr. Chairman, we stand in opposition to this bill. It puts a lot of restrictions and prohibitions in trying to meet our customer demands, as well as what the market might be calling for. And with that, sir, I'll try to answer questions any members may have.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Kasem. Committee members, any questions for Mr. Kasem? Representative Hunter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate Mr. Casing being here from Rocky Mountain Power. I appreciate taking the time to testify in front of this committee. From my background as an engineer. I've designed plants and operated plants, and I know that plants usually last a lot longer than anticipated if they have good maintenance practices during their operation. In your portfolio, you have a number of plants that are slated to be closed down that are coal-fired plants in the next few years. Is that because the equipment has worn out, or is it because of other constraints such as environmental or other states desire not to have coal-fired power?
Mr. Chairman, Representative, thank you for the question. It's a combination, sir. The plant's usefulness, again, back to the economics of running those plants. It's a combination. It's also responding to what the market is requiring of for produced power, as well as environmental restrictions coming in from the federal government.
Okay, follow up?
Yeah, go ahead, Representative.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Casing, so if we could solve the regional haze issues and the carbon capture issues, could your plants reasonably continue to function for the next 10 or 15 years with normal maintenance?
Mr. Chairman, Representative, I'm hesitant to give you an absolute yes. There's too many variables to make a determination. Again, the economics becomes part of it, which again rolls back to what the customers expect from a reliability standpoint, as well as the price that goes along with that. So I wish I could give you an absolute yes, but there's many, many factors that have to be weighed to see how regional haze could be eliminated or at least managed better. And again, perhaps extension of some of these units.
So one more.
Well, go ahead, Representative.
So taking all those external factors away, could your plant continue to run with normal maintenance? Removing those external factors, would it be able to continue running for 10 or 15 years with normal maintenance, or is it just plumb wore out?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Heiner, you have to take a look at the individual units. Some units are newer than others. They've all been maintained very well, but there comes a point in time when the life expectancy has got to be finalized. How much money is a utility willing to invest in that ongoing maintenance to keep that unit running when they know it could be an imposition back on the customers?
Thank you. Representative Duncan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Following up on Representative Heiner, if the coal company or the coal power plants, given the factors of the haze, and we were giving some of the same credit and tax credits in such that the renewables were getting, if we gave those tax credits to the coal fires for the net carbons, would all of the same factors figure in that Representative Heiner's questions, would those factor in as well?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Duncan, I would say yes to that from the standpoint, again, one part of a very big equation. And again, what would those credits mean to the bottom line from the standpoint of the economic picture, if I may? And again, what the resulting ongoing maintenance costs might be to keep those units running. So a great question, but a lot of unknowns have to go in, or the knowns have to go into the analysis to make a final determination.
Any further questions? Go ahead, Representative Heiner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One more question for you, Mr. Casing, and I appreciate having you here today, but we have heard in other testimony from other individuals that the regional haze can be resolved with carbon capture, that carbon capture also takes care of some of those haze issues that we've had to concern ourselves with. Is that true from your perspective as you have studied carbon capture? Does it actually help with the regional haze issues as well?
Good.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Heiner, it would be a contributor, a positive contributor of being able to capture and use the sequestration technologies that are still being developed. So I think it would be a contributing factor to improving the haze.
Committee, Representative Burkhardt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Kaysen, if this bill would pass, do you feel this would force you to rebuild a power plant that had a catastrophic failure that you would probably want to retire? I mean, it happens, not that I want it to happen to any of your facilities, but if you had a catastrophic failure that really pretty much destroyed the facility, do you feel this bill would force you to rebuild that facility and not retire it?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Burkhardt, yes, sir. And we're talking millions and millions and millions of dollars for of some sort of a rebuild.
Yep. Any further questions, committee? All right, we'll keep moving. Mr. Kaysen, I'm going to take you up on your word. We're going to have meaningful talks and conversation this summer. And one of those involves investment in technology and investment in the state of Wyoming around carbon capture. You got your commitment on that?
Okay. My commitment is, sir, we'll still work with you. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. All right, Ms. Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Shannon Anderson on behalf of Powder River Basin Resource Council, and on behalf of our 2,000 members across the state, we do oppose this bill. Like Mr. Kaysen, we appreciate your discussion this morning and the ongoing dialogue about these issues. They're critical to the future of Wyoming, utility customers, and our environment. So we do appreciate the conversation. But again, we believe this bill is just too flawed to move forward. And particularly it conflicts with the directives in House Bill 166, which you just passed through Committee of the Whole yesterday. And in particular, House Bill 166 has a presumption and some exceptions. This bill has neither. It has a directive to the Public Service Commission to predetermine the outcome of a Public Service Commission review to basically say that the coal plant shouldn't be retired. And therefore, you're stepping on the shoes of your quasi-judicial agency that really needs to balance factors, take evidence, and make the best decision for utility customers. Again, this bill is a very strong piece of legislation that effectively tells the Public Service Commission what to do before they've taken any evidence or received any testimony about the retirement of a coal plant. We also, as we mentioned last week in testimony, we're very concerned about not having any exceptions related to environmental compliance. This will threaten our primacy with the Environmental Protection Agency. There are coal plants in the state that must be retired because of environmental reasons. And to not have exceptions related to those coal plants will have significant impacts to the relationship between the DEQ and the EPA. And that's a great concern of our organization, as it is, I know, for many of you as committee members on this particular committee. And also just leave you with the idea that the bill really doesn't solve any problems. It actually only comes in when a utility decides to retire a coal plant. And so what the bill could effectively do is just force a utility to mothball a plant, run it a lot less, or otherwise, effectively retire it without retiring it. And so I question whether the bill even serves its purpose, and that is to keep coal plants running, I guess, forever, at least until 2037. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'd be happy to answer any of your questions. And thank you again for the ongoing discussion. We look forward to the interim and a broader in-person, hopefully, conversation about these topics. So thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Any questions from Ms. Anderson? Yep. Thank you for your comments. Mr. Bush. They, no, we'll take your comments and then I don't see a hand up. Go ahead.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, David Bush with Black Hills Energy. We also have serious concerns about the legislation, primarily some of the things that were stated by Mr. Kaysen and by Ms. Anderson, but in particular, conversion to natural gas. That's something we've looked at as a way to keep some of these plants running. And the way I read the legislation is that would put a moratorium or stop that ability to do that. Now, we have some coal plants that I think are coming up on the end of their useful life and extended useful lives. I'm not privy to those conversations about exactly what the plan is for some of those, but I do think this does restrict utilities' ability to make the best decision for its customers when it comes certainly to cost, which is something that we're always concerned about. And as you've heard from some in this committee, the groups that represent the industrial consumers are also very concerned about costs. So I think there's a lot to take in with this bill, and with some of the other questions regarding the sale and how that process works. Many of you remember in 2019, the legislature passed Senate File 159, which kind of set forth the parameters for a sale of an early retirement of a coal plant. Senate File 21 last year in the budget session laid out some more parameters for that. So the process is there that a utility has to go through if they're going to early retire a facility and look at what they want to do as far as whether they keep it going, invest the money to keep the plant running, or to sell it. So I think there's a lot there, and we've been involved with the ITC project up in Campbell County. We're working with the University of Wyoming on some research projects as well. So there's definitely some things that we can do. To the chairman's point about carbon capture, it is I think a technology that I think Representative Heiner asked about. I think there is potential there. It just comes down to the cost from what I've been told and some of the research I've done. So again, I'm not an engineer. I don't know all those answers, but I think with this bill, it really restricts the ability for us to continue to maneuver with the changing market, but continue to also provide the power that we need to provide reliably and affordably to our customers. And we're here electric in Cheyenne, and then a little bit of electric up in Northeast Wyoming as well. So.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Bush? Representative Hunter?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Bush, as you contemplate retiring some of these coal-fired power generation facilities that you operate or maintain, are you going to replace that base load or that power with green energy or with fossil-based energy?
Good, Mr. Bush.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Heiner, that is a question that is well above my pay grade. My understanding is we're still quite a ways off from any of those retirements coming. We have wind that we've recently built here west of Cheyenne. It's a subscription-based program. We built 52.5 megawatts of wind turbines, and customers in South Dakota and here in Cheyenne signed up for that wind power specifically. It's not put onto our grid and given to all of our customers. So again, that's something that we had several customers that were interested in green energy. And when they contacted us about possibilities and on what would work best for them, utility scale is definitely the way to go on the green energy versus them putting up their own turbines or their own solar panels. It was just an economic decision, and it afforded us the opportunity to provide them the energy they need through the green power. So,
follow up.
Go ahead,
Mr. Bush. If we realize that carbon capture is growing more economical and the technology is fluid at this point, but it is getting there, just a matter of time. If carbon capture becomes economically viable, would or could it extend the life of these plants that you already have a defined timeline of retiring? Could they actually go longer if we had carbon capture?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Heiner, perhaps, again, I'm not an engineer, so I don't know for sure, but I think it could. It's certainly, there's other parts of the maintenance and the upkeep on a power plant that go beyond just the environmental controls that may play a factor in there. But my understanding is, yeah, there's possibilities there. And that's the thing with technology, as you pointed out, sir, it continues to grow and become, to make things more possible. As the longer the technology is there, the more research that's being done, and the more that people invest the time in it, the cost continues to decrease, and the technology, whether it's carbon capture or lots of other things become more readily available. So.
All right, committee. Any further questions for Mr. Bush? Okay. Mr. Bush, one of the nice things, this discussion that we're having, and we're learning a new area. I want to spend a little time with you and understand these subscription agreements for specific types of electrons. So I'll be discussing that with you. You've got time.
Yeah, you bet, sir.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else wishes to testify? Okay, we're kind of running up on time here, so close public testimony. What is the committee's pleasure? It's moved by Gray. Is there a second? Second from the committee, second by Heiner. Okay, discussion on the bill.
Mr. Chairman.
Yep. Go ahead, Representative Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I think it's pretty clear here that a retirement does not mean a conversion. If we need to do some amendments on the floor to make that clear, I'm happy to do that. I mean, I think that would be a great amendment, but I don't think retire precludes a conversion. I really don't. So, but if the legalese isn't there, that's fine. I mean, we can fix that. But I think this is a good policy. I mean, maybe the debate date, we talk about 2030. When we ran the amendment the second time, we used 2030 as the date. But I'm just, at some point, some of this stuff becomes almost some of the testimony is perplexing to me. But I think it's a good bill.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, Representative Duncan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to be a no on this. And the reason is we already have Senate File 159, Senate File 21, House Bill 166. All of these already address this issue. And this bill basically negates some of it. It creates complexity. It actually is in conflict with some of these. So I don't see that it's necessary. So that's basically where I'm at on this and why I will be a no.
Okay. All right. Folks, just go ahead and just work it real quick. Page 1, any amendments? Page 2. Page 3. Okay. Question being called, it's roll call vote. Carol?
Representative Bear,
Yeah, just go ahead. I'm gonna keep him excused and
Okay.
then we'll get Representative Bear caught up.
Okay.
So,
Representative Burkhart,
No.
Vice Chair Duncan,
No.
Representative Air,
No.
Representative Gray,
Aye.
Representative Heiner, Representative Sherwood,
No.
Representative Western, Chairman Greer.
No. Okay, hold on just a second. Representative Barrett was on House Bill 257, the coal fire plant closure moratorium. There were no amendments.
Are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Aye.
That would be 3 ayes, 6 noes. It's a do pass motion that fails.
Okay, thanks, Carol. Thank you, Representative Fortner. Yeah, appreciate you coming in. Okay, folks, that'll wrap us up. We've got, God only knows how many education amendments to go get sorted out. So I'll let everybody go except for Representative Bear, and then we'll get his vote on the other action. And then I'll adjourn. So Carol, what do we have open for Representative Bear?
We have Senate File 44 engrossed, and then we have House Bill 155.
Okay, so Representative Bear, Senate File 44 was cease and transfer priority list. There were no, well, there was a technical amendment on that. So if you're ready to vote.
Aye.
Okay, and then Representative Bear, we moved forward House Bill 155, which is Representative Gray's bill. We pulled out the liability component of that and tweaked a little bit of language on it. And I think there's only one no vote on that bill, I think.
Aye.
Okay, all right, so we got you. Okay, yeah,